In my previous video, I demonstrated how to make drawers using this quarter joinery method. In this video, I want to show you how to make a handle that requires no external hardware. So nothing you go get from the hardware store, nothing to catch you as you're walking by, nothing to get in the way if you're hanging something off the front of your workbench. It has a little lip that your fingers can grab into. It's recessed, but there's no lip down here to catch sawdust. It's a pretty neat little thing. Let me show you how to make it. Making that handle goes in 3 steps. We start with a blank drawer front and drill a pilot hole. That pilot hole is to allow a T-slot cutter bit to drop in underneath the face of the drawer. This T-slot cutter bit is extending through a bushing. That bushing is going to ride against a pattern. So as that bushing travels around here, the stem of that cutter bit will cut the same pattern as our template, and the wings of that cutter bit will cut underneath the front of the drawer. So there's about 1/4 inch of material and 3/8 inch overhang for a finger to catch. After doing that, I use a flush trim bit with a bearing to follow the inner wall on the bottom and sides so that there's a wider handle and no place for sawdust to catch. So that leaves us here. No overhang on the bottom and sides, but still the overhang to allow the drawer to be pulled on the top. So that's the overview. Let me run you through the details of the process. And at the end of the video, I'll talk through how I designed this template to fit all of these parameters. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark the center of the drawer, left to right. That will allow me to line up the template later. Then I'm going to pre-drill a hole on that line for the router bit to sink into. I'm using a Forstner bit that's a little bit wider than the router bit. That way when I start up the router, the bit isn't touching the edge of the hole. Then I can get the template in place by lining up those center lines that I mentioned earlier. You can also see that that drill hole is in the center of the template, so there will be no trace of it left when I'm done routing. Now I can drop the router in and run it around the template. On this face, I made just one pass around the edge of the template. You'll be able to hear some clattering in a moment, and that's larger pieces that broke off instead of being cut away. On other faces, I started in the center and slowly spiraled outward to prevent that from happening. I found that the 1/4 inch recess that this bit cut was just a little bit shallow for the handle that I wanted. So I'm using my router's depth stop here to lower the bit just a little bit and get closer to a 3/8 inch recess with a second cut. I started the router with the bit already extended and then rocked it into the recess because I was afraid of unlocking the plunge facility with that T-slot cutter bit running because it's larger than the bushing. And if it had risen instead of lowered and caught the bushing, that might have caused damage to everything. Bonus points for you, by the way, if you guess that the template is made of scrap wood from the first video in this series. The final power tool step is to run this flush trim bit around the inside of the handle. That's going to take off the lip on the sides and bottom. I also decided to square up the corners where the flush trim bit left it round at the top. I just think it looks better that way. Okay, in addition to squaring up those corners, I'm also going to ease this under edge. I'll ease the top side with some sandpaper, but just so I don't have to do all of this underneath, sneaking sandpaper in here, I'll start with a little chisel chamfer. Yeah, that's nice. All right, that's 4 drawer fronts with pulls included. Now I just have to assemble the drawers and finish them and put drawer slides in, drawer liners. Through the magic of letting a year pass, this is what the finished drawers look like. This is the handle. I've put 2 coats of polyurethane on these, and then there's that quarter joinery, and I lined the bottoms with cork so that my tools don't bang around quite as much. They pull way out so you can get all the way to the back and push back in real nice. Cool. Thanks for watching. Oh, but stick around for just a couple more minutes if you want to learn how to make the template for running the router around. I'll walk you through what I had to consider and all the math to make it work. The thing that's going to follow the template is the collet on the base of my router. So this collet has an outer diameter of 5/8 of an inch. This bit, the center part is 3/8 of an inch, and the outer parts are another 3/8 of an inch for a total of 9/8 across. But that means that I need the pattern to be 1/8 inch larger than I want the opening to be, because this center bit cuts an 1/8 inch inside of where the follower travels. So let's go ahead and mark up a new design for this. So I know that I want the bottom edge of that handle lip to be 1.25 inches from this top edge. So because my pattern follower is going to be 1/8 inch off of where the center of this cutter is cutting, I know that I should be 1.125 inches down from the top. So let's go ahead and mark that. Hopefully that's a little bit better vantage point. So we're marking the 1.125 inches down from the top. 1.125 inches from the top. And that's because the cutter is going to cut an additional 1/8 of an inch down at 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to mark both of those just for reference. And then I'm going to put a center line on the pattern. With those in place, I want the handle to be 4 inches across. So that would be here and here. But the bit is going to cut 1/4 inch outside the pattern. So what I actually need is the pattern to be 1/4 inch inside of those marks. That's there and there. So we'll go ahead and run those down. The pattern as well. Great. And now I need to mark the hole for that bit to drill so I can put the router into it. So I want that bit to drill outside of the bottom of the handle. The bottom of the handle is this lower mark, the 1/8 of an inch inside of the pattern. So that's 1.25 inches from the edge of this board. And the drill bit I'm going to use is 1.25 inches across. I don't want the drill bit to cut beyond the pattern. So if I were to do the 1.25 inches plus the full 1.25 inches of the bit, that's 2.5 inches down. So the other end of the bit would hit here. And so when I was sketching this template, I measured the arc that I liked at 4 3/4 inches. And I know that the T-slot bit is going to cut 1/4 inch beyond the pattern. So I just need a 4.5 inch radius. That looks like pretty close to 4.5. So I need a little bit extra space for my compass point. So I've made a second board with a line on it. And I'm actually going to set my pencil a little bit beyond where that drill bit would cut, just to give me some slop to not worry about. So that's going to be about there, and I will set the compass point on that line on the other board, and then we will draw the arc. I can put that drill bit on there a little bit more to illuminate this as well. That's 5/8. So if I mark that like so. So this circle represents the drill that's coming in, and when we route, the bushing will follow this outer line that we've marked. The cutter will actually be a little bit beyond that. It'll be 1/4 inch outside, so we'll have a lip out here, like so, and up here. But the inner cutter will be 1/8 inch inside of that, so we'll have something like this. And what we'll end up doing is taking out this, and all of this will go away with this under edge left in place. So for the next step, what I need to do with the template is take out everything inside of these edges that we have marked. And get more room to turn around. There we go. Just shave that off. That is almost right on the line right there. This one's just a little finer. Let's see if I can get it. I think that is our handle template.